Hey, welcome to EliteHealthOnline.com. Thank you for joining us today. Today we have Sadia Shaki from Texas Star Pharmacy. They're a compounding pharmacist there. Sadia, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Hey, folks, nothing today in this conversation is meant to be used to diagnose or treat disease, but for educational purposes only. So, Sadia, one of the main things people come to us for is weight loss. With the COVID-15 or the COVID-30 that everyone seems to have put on, people right now are walking into the springtime and they are just thinking about weight loss, and we see it every single day. And one of the things that our providers that we have included on all of our panels is to look at people's T3, T4 levels, because this is such an important area of weight loss. You can take care of hormones and you can do a lot of other things if people's doctors today are not looking at these values as part of the formula, as part of the equation. They're really missing out, and maybe why they're not getting the results that they may be expecting. Would you talk to us a little bit of that today about some of the therapies that we're offering that can help when someone's T3, T4 levels are down, and how those medications work to correct the weight loss issue that people are experiencing?
Absolutely, Clay. And this is one of my most favorite topic also, because T3, T4 is, not just the weight loss, but it controls every function in our body. It single-handedly controls how our body, rates metabolism. So, and we know, weight loss entirely depends, the balance between how the metabolism is happening, how we are, detoxifying all those ingredients that are created as a result of metabolism, and how well we are able to perform and, distribute calories in our body for different
Mm-hmm.
functions. So one thing I'm going to say, these days, specifically since we are in the COVID era, T3, T4 is also very critical for immune function, which we don't, talk about a lot. So
No.
yes,
Mm-mm.
metabolism is number one function for T3, T4. People think when they talk about it, but having the right immune function is T3 and T4 is critical for that. Cardiovascular health, our gastrointestinal function, our, psychological health, and there are
Mm-hmm.
studies out there that a lot of times, specifically female patients, they came to the clinic with mild depression, and
Mm-hmm.
all the diagnosis showed that they had hypothyroidism, which is like they don't have enough levels
Right.
of T3 and T4. So just by supplementing that, their symptoms of depression disappear. They turn them into a happy
Yeah.
women again. So
Yeah.
specifically more for women's health, a small amount of small fluctuation in the T3 and T4 levels are can be, very impactful in their overall body functions.
Well, Saudi, I would think
One,
that would be really important because starting on a antidepressant is not a mild therapy. Correcting T3, T4 is putting something back into our bodies that's natural that we're missing. Um, Going on an antidepressant is kind of a long-term type thing, really hard to come back off of. So I would think this would be an important step for patients to make sure these levels are correct if they are experiencing any kind of depression. So it's very valuable.
there's you said so. This is so critical because when I was doing my fellowship, I learned that there was one speaker, a very well-known doctor. He said, we are not born with fluoxetine deficiency, which
Mm-hmm.
is an antidepressant deficiency. Basically, what makes us go in that direction is, again, imbalance and some sort of interruption in our hormone. So, and again, that's why it's so critical to find a doctor like on your platform that you have.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking at a good hypothalamus to pituitary to
Mm-hmm.
adrenal, like all those axes, and how
Right.
brain affects, the thyroid gland and all that. So, which is so critical, that, absolutely antidepressants are so easily prescribed, and they're good about giving immediate results, but long term it has a lot of
Mm-hmm.
consequences, in generally
Right.
speaking. And again, these antidepressants, yes, they help, but again, they change the brain chemicals. So
Right.
where one side is very good, and then it affects the other side. And and brain is one of the very delicate organ in the body when it comes to the chemical balance. So going back to this particular topic, one thing I'm going to say, what we really need to understand that T3 is the active thyroid hormone and T4 is a pro-hormone. So in our body, T4 has to convert into T3 in order to have the right thyroid functioning going on.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing is very critical, that in our heart there are no receptors for T4. So when it comes to good cardiovascular function, if our body did not have right amount of T3, then there is a possibility that our most of the cardiovascular complications come from there. And again, T3 and T4, going back with the whole our topic of weight loss, how it works. And I know in the previous topic we have talked about thermogenic effect. And
Mm-hmm.
thermogenic is the term that we use when something resets body temperature.
Mm-hmm.
About few years back, and even now, if 98.6 degrees in Fahrenheit is considered the
Mm-hmm.
ideal body temperature. But if you see in your clinic how many patients who are coming and you're taking their temperature, and they're usually lower,
Mm-hmm.
they're 98 degrees or
Right.
97.8 degrees. So although it's such a low variation in temperature that they're not clinically diagnosed with hypothermia, but that low temperature is
Mm-hmm.
the reason why they feel cold all the time, or there is
Right.
more, cold intolerance. And that's where T3 right there is the role that can play, because whenever our body temperature is not right, we cannot metabolize. So the
Well, Sonny, that's
women,
what you hear all the time. You see grandparents and people telling younger people, put a coat on. Aren't you cold? Why aren't you wearing socks? And yet, um, the reason they're not cold is because their body temperature is correct. And as we age and these values drop off, that's why people experience the more sensitivity to cold as they age. I would think that's a huge part of that.
yes, and Clay, I mean, it's sad that these days very young teenagers they're on thyroid supplements,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not actually, and they need it just because in our environmental toxins that we inhale, we digest, we eat
Mm-hmm.
out of food and all that, they're all thyroid disruptors. The majority of
Right.
them, about right now it says, and they are more harmful in, statistically speaking,
Mm-hmm.
in women's body than in males. Of course, it does in males too, but in females, right now, it says that about 1 out of 4 women have some type of thyroid
Right.
related issue. So
Yep.
it's a huge number, like, you're
Yep.
talking.
And it
And given,
changes over
again,
time, correct? Because we have a lot
does.
of patients when they understand that we run these labs, every 6 months, and we ensure that we have this lab value when we start the free consultation. And they'll say, "Well, my doctor ran that 2 years ago. I was fine." That is not
No,
necessarily that you're still okay. So this is something that has to be monitored on an ongoing basis. And especially when patients are coming
absolutely.
to us saying that I've put on weight, I don't know why, my same diet, same exercise program, but I'm not losing weight anymore. I mean, this is why this is so critical that we look at this value as part of our workup.
Absolutely. And then if you think about it, T3 stays in the body for about 18 hours, versus
Mm-hmm.
T4 stays in the body, for 7 days. So
Right.
technically, even after 3 months, speaking,
Mm-hmm.
um, there's a need for another lab work. Even some
Right.
doctors, they like to do their patients' lab work when they are on a specific regimen of T3,
Mm-hmm.
T4 combinations
Right.
every month, just to see how they're doing. And it's
Right.
one of the very, very hard to balance type product too. So what works for me may not be the work for my sister or my
Right.
friend. Although our lab numbers look exactly the same, but how our bodies are genetically
Yeah.
made up, what is our lifestyle, what is our environmental stressors we are
Right.
facing, you know uh, that changes the whole dynamics. So again,
Sure.
how T3 T4, it has effect in our brain chemistry, it has effect on our thermogenesis. It has tons of, other benefits. So finding
Right.
a doctor who can actually prescribe the right dose is the key, and that changes the entire,
Well, Sadia,
perception.
you just nailed it. That's what really makes us different at Elite is we don't just treat numbers. Even in our TRT programs, I mean, well, I'm here. We do have to treat the number, but we also have to treat the patient. And some patients maybe feel great at one value and others need a therapeutic value that's higher. So you really do have to look at the patient and what they're experiencing and treat the symptoms and treat the person, not just the numbers. And that's where I think we differ. And we certainly appreciate your expertise and knowledge on this subject today.
Yes, absolutely. And anytime you need more in-depth discussion with that, I have tons of other information on that one too,
Yeah.
maybe for later. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Well, it is very important. So, hey, click the link there, visit us at elitehealthonline.com, book your free consultation. Let's get some lab work. If you're struggling to lose weight or feeling any of these signs and symptoms that we talked about today, it's important to check these values, have one of our providers look into your T3, T4 levels and treat you specifically and not treat you based on just numbers, but to actually correct these values and get you into the therapeutic range. So visit us today. And again, Sadia, thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you.